There is a version of the truth we hide, and a mask we construct to survive the gaze of others. We think deception protects us, but it always leaves a mark. Evolution taught us to deceive before we learned to speak, but the psychological cost is immense. To lie is to carry a mental weight the mind truly abhors. We are often told that the eyes act as windows to the soul, yet most of us are blind to what is staring back at us from the shadows of a casual conversation. Dark psychology isn't about manipulation. It is about seeing the cracks in the porcelain. It is realizing that the hardest thing to do is remain fully hidden. The brain consumes far more energy constructing a falsehood than it does recalling a memory. Truth flows like water. Lies must be built like fortress walls. When someone lies to you, they are not just deceiving your senses. They are battling their own biology, fighting a subconscious, ancient urge to confess. If you have ever felt a sudden chill in a warm room, or a silence that felt like a scream, you have sensed the dissonance of a lie before you heard it. Today, we peel back the layers of human performance to reveal the 3 signals the body broadcasts when the mouth refuses to speak the simple truth. Before we can identify the poison, we must understand the water. You cannot spot an anomaly if you have never taken the time to observe the daily pattern. In psychology, we call this the baseline. It is the canvas of a person's normal behavior, how they breathe, how they sit, and how they exist in peace. Imagine a friend who is perpetually anxious. Their shaking hands are not a sign of deceit. They are a sign of their nature. We must look for the shift. The mistake most make is assuming nervousness equals guilt. But the innocent are often terrified of not being believed. Fear is not always a confession. You must watch them when the stakes are low. How do they smile when the weather is discussed? How do their shoulders rest when the silence is comfortable? Once you have mapped the geography of their honesty, only then can you see the tremors of a lie. It is the deviation from the self that reveals the secret. Think of a time you knew something was wrong before a word was spoken. Your intuition was comparing the present moment against the history of their soul. This requires a stillness in you. To see the truth in another, you must quiet your own projections and become a mirror that reflects only what is there. The baseline is the anchor. Without it, you are drifting in a sea of assumptions, mistaking your own insecurities for actual evidence of their deception. When the mask slips, it does not fall off completely. It shifts just enough to reveal the skin underneath. You must be watching closely to really see it. There is a pervasive myth that the liar cannot sit still, that they fidget and dance with guilt. But the limbic system often chooses a much darker path. When the mind is cornered, the ancient brain does not dance. It freezes. It is the stillness of a predator, or the rigid silence of prey hiding in grass. This is the body betraying the will. They stop moving their hands. The natural animation of life vanishes, replaced by a calculated, eerie, statuesque. All cognitive energy is diverted to the fabrication. The brain shuts down non-essential movement to focus entirely on maintaining the architecture of the lie. Look for the turtle effect. The shoulders rise toward the ears, the head sinks down. It is a primal attempt to hide the neck, the most vulnerable point. If you ask a question and they suddenly become a sculpture, pay attention. The freezing is not peace. It is the tension of a wire about to finally snap. Authentic communication is fluid. We move, we gesture, we inhabit our space. A lie constricts us, turning the body into a cage for the secret inside. Think of a child caught in mischief. They do not run. They stand perfectly still, hoping to become invisible. The adult liar is no different, just taller. This rigidity is the shadow casting itself over the physical form. They are trying to hold everything inside, terrified that a movement might spill truth. If the hands that usually dance with words suddenly fall dead at their sides, the story they are telling you has likely been manufactured, not remembered. Language is the clothing of our thoughts, and when we lie, we try to distance ourselves from the fabric. We subconsciously separate the self from the sin. This is the verbal betrayal. Listen for the distancing language. They stop using I or me. They refer to people as that woman or those events. It is a psychological disassociation. By removing their identity from the sentence, they hope to remove their conscience from the actual act of deception. Then comes the omission. The truth is full of sensory details. The smell of rain, the cold coffee. A lie is often a skeletal structure, missing the flesh. Conversely, beware the over-explanation. The liar feels the silence is an accusation, so they fill it with unnecessary noise and irrelevant precision. They tell you exactly what time the bus arrived, not because it matters, but because they believe specificity mimics the texture of the actual truth. But the subconscious rejects the lie. It tries to push the falsehood away, using formal language in casual settings, stiffening the tongue like the body. Imagine asking a partner where they were. If the answer feels like a prepared statement rather than a messy memory, you are hearing a script, not a life. We use words to bridge the gap between minds. But a liar uses words to build a labyrinth, hoping you will get lost in the details before you find the center. Truth is simple. It does not need to be defended with paragraphs of justification. It stands on its own, naked and unashamed, waiting to be recognized. The face can hold a pose for a minute, but it cannot control the split-second leakage of the soul. We call these micro-expressions, and they do not lie. Consider the smile. A true smile, the Duchenne smile, engages the muscles around the eyes. It crinkles the skin. It lights up the upper half of the face. A fake smile is a mouth-only operation. The lips curve upward, but the eyes remain dead, cold and watchful. It is a mask painted on over a blank canvas. Then there is the myth of eye contact. We are told liars look away. In reality, a skilled liar will stare you down, maintaining contact to prove innocence. This is predatory gazing. They are checking to see if you believe them. It is not connection, it is surveillance. They are hunting for your skepticism. The eyes are the only part of the brain that is visible from the outside. When the mind is calculating a deception, the eyes often blink less, then flutter. If you see a flash of anger or fear that vanishes in less than a second, believe the flash. The expression that follows is the one they want you to see. Intimacy requires vulnerability. When someone lies, they place a pane of glass behind their eyes. You can see them, but you cannot truly touch them. Watch for the mismatch. A mouth saying, "I am happy for you," while the eyebrows knit together in distress. The body cannot align with a fabricated emotion. It is in these fractions of a second that the shadow self reveals its presence. The mask slips, and for a heartbeat, you see the stranger underneath. Deception is an exhausting architecture. It requires the brain to suppress the truth, invent the story, and monitor your reaction simultaneously. We call this cognitive load. The liar is carrying a boulder while trying to walk a tightrope. To find the truth, you must simply make the boulder heavier. If you suspect a fabrication, ask them to tell the story in reverse. The brain can replay a memory backwards easily, but it struggles to reverse a lie. Watch them stumble. The cognitive load becomes too great. The timeline fractures, the details blur, and the mask finally shatters under the heavy weight. But there is a sorrow in catching a lie. It is the realization that the connection you thought you held was, in that moment, entirely imaginary. We lie because we are afraid. Afraid of judgment, afraid of loss, afraid that our authentic selves are too broken to be loved by the light of day. Understanding these signs is not just about catching the guilty. It is about hearing the fear behind the deception and seeing the wound behind the wall. The truth may be painful, but it is the only solid ground we have. Without it, we are building our relationships on the shifting sands of performance. If you see these signs, do not just accuse. Listen to the silence beneath the lie. Often, that is where the real person is hiding, waiting to be found. To live without masks is the bravest thing a human can do. It is to say, "This is who I am, flawed and real," and to trust that it is enough. May you have the eyes to see the truth, the heart to forgive the fear, and the courage to live authentically in a world that profits from your disguise. For more explorations into the shadows of the human mind, allow yourself to return here. The truth is quiet, but it is always waiting for you.